Hey brides, welcome back to another episode of the Bridal Coach podcast where you come for real, genuine, helpful advice on how to lose weight and tone up for your wedding day. Today's episode is all about why it is important to set actual goals and not just come into this wedding weight loss journey being like, I'd be happier losing a little bit more weight, or I just want to tone up. Like, we really need to be specific on what we want. And that's why this episode is so important, because I speak to so many women daily who don't really know exactly what it is that they want. They know they want to lose weight. They know they want to feel more confident. They know they want to tone up. Like, I think in an ideal world, it would just be as easy as saying, I want to do these things, and then, put a few things into place and it happened. But as I'm sure, listen, if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably been on a weight loss journey before. You've probably done something similar. You've been in a calorie deficit. You've tried increasing your exercise and your calorie expenditure, like all of the above. Everything on paper should be working, but nothing has actually worked. And I spoke to a girl yesterday. She actually just joined the program. So shout out to her, because taking steps like that is such a bold move. And this particular girl had been struggling with her weight loss journey for the past 2 months. So not too long, but she had hit a plateau. And this plateau is really confusing when you actually don't know what you're doing wrong and why you're not losing weight. And when I asked her what her specific goal was, she couldn't really tell me. She told me, well, it would be nice to lose like around a stone. I'm not really fussed on the number. I don't remember the last time I jumped on the scale. But she knows she's put on a little bit of weight over the past sort of 12 months. And we really had to get clear on what her vision was, on what she actually wanted to achieve. Because you cannot achieve something without having a set plan for it, right? We have to have a goal in which we strive for. And while I think it's so important to recognize that the weight on the scale does not signify the success or how happy you're going to be, it is important when you're trying to lose weight to have a goal in mind so that we can reverse engineer and we can actually work backwards. Because I think a lot of people think that it's just as easy as keep going until you're happy. But that's just not how it works. That's not how life goes, all right? If you want to make more money, you can't just say, oh, I want to make some more money. Like, if you actually want to get specific, if you actually want to reach that goal, you have to get specific with it. And it is the same with your weight loss journey as anything else. If you want something specific, you have to ask for it. You have to literally say, I want this, and know that that is what you want. And if the goal changes along the way, that is totally fine as well. But we have to be able to reverse engineer it. And I'm going to explain why in this episode. But today's episode is all about how you can actually set those goals, what those goals actually mean, and how we can reverse engineer our weight loss journey to make sure that we're seeing what we want to see. So whenever a bride joins my program, I always ask them to get clear on two things, okay? Now, the first one is easier to get clear on because it's a realistic goal. What do they think is realistic? What do you think is realistic for you to achieve before your wedding or in 6 months, 12 months, okay? So I like to look at milestones. So we tend to look at 3 months, 6 months, and a year. You can do this based on what you think is achievable in your wedding time frame. So let's just take 6 months, for example. What do you think is achievable for you in 6 months' time? Now, a lot of women won't know what actually is achievable for them, but I actually just want you to think like, what number comes to the top of your head? If you want to lose weight, right? If you know that you are going to be happier losing some weight, what weight in mind do you actually think you will be happy with? This goes back to the point where I say it's not defined, your happiness is not defined by the number on the scale. And I think that is super important to note. But knowing that you're unhappy in your current weight right now, what weight do you think you might be happy with? And then I want you to think, is that realistic in the time frame? Okay. So we're talking about a realistic goal. Now, our second goal that I want you to also think about and say out loud is forget realistic. What is your actual wildest dream goal? Like, take away any obstacle, any fear, any limiting belief, anything that is holding you back. What would you actually be over the moon, ecstatic, never, ever, ever, being upset or unconfident or questioning yourself, looking in the mirror? Like, what does that look like? And what do you think that number is? Okay, so we've got your realistic goal, and then we've got your wildest dream goal. They're the two goals that we're going to be keeping at the forefront of our mind, right? And then we look at somewhere in between, because that's usually where the bride sort of undercuts her abilities. And also, then when we have the wildest dream goal, we don't want to necessarily aim for that before the wedding, because that is a lot of pressure. But also, that's going to take many, many years. Okay, so our realistic goal is usually something that we sort of under or overachieve on, because we have undercut our abilities. We usually, we give ourselves goals that we know are possible. And so the middle ground is usually somewhere in between what we think is possible and what we think is unachievable. Okay, so whether that be, I want to lose a stone, for example. You'll see on my page as well, if you go onto my Instagram page at The Bridal Coach, you'll see all of my testimonials, or most of them, are women speaking about their goals and how they came to me, wanting to lose a stone, maybe a stone and a half. And then they signed up to the 6-month program, not knowing if that was achievable, thinking it's a bit unrealistic, and thinking that I would judge them for it. And then 6 months down the line, they're 2 stone lighter in their wedding dress, feeling the best they ever have. And this just goes to show that you really do what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of another way to put this other than you expect too little, because of whether that's past experiences, whether you've tried to lose weight and it's failed in the past, whether you have lost the weight and you've put it all back on, so you think that what you're asking for is too unachievable, right? But with the right plan, with the right support, and with the right guidance, and with consistency over time, that stuff is more than achievable. And that's exactly what I help my brides with, because we have to keep on to that. Because I know for sure that they're going to hit the goal, their realistic goal, their goal that they would be happy with. They're going to hit that goal, and then it's going to be like, whoa, what's next? But already we've planted the seed of like the bigger goal. So exact goals create exact results, which is why we can't just wing it and say, I just want to feel good. You need to know what actually feels good. And I've spoken about this before. You need to define what your goal is. Okay, what is it? What is that number? Because if we can fix on a number, we can reverse engineer it and figure out what it's going to take to get you to that number. So for example, if you want to lose a stone and you've got 6 months to do that, that's 1 kilogram weight loss a month. In a realistic time frame, that is more than achievable. 1 kilogram of weight loss every single month will get you to losing a stone in 6 months. And that is super sustainable, super achievable. And if you break that down into weekly goals, that's 0.25 kg a week. Now, a lot of my clients are losing way more than that. Between 0.5 and 1 kg a week weight loss is what we aim for. Some weeks you're going to fluctuate due to hormones. Other weeks you're going to not see the results that you would hope for because of social occasions, or something's popped up, maybe your nutrition wasn't 100% on point. We have to allow for these fluctuations and for these moments where we're not 100% perfect, so we cannot expect to see the same amount of weight fluctuation every single week. But with that being said, you can expect to see 0.5 to 1 kilograms of weight loss every single week if you actually put the work in, okay? So we can then figure out a specific plan to get us there. My client that lost 2 stone in 6 months, there wasn't any sort of like proper urgency, because we knew that we were on track. However, that gave us a lot of leeway, like when she was going on her hen do and when she was going wine testing or cake testing, we allowed more freedom, and we knew that every single week didn't need to be as, prominent in the weight loss or in the graph that as we were seeing on the weeks when she was moving the needle properly. Okay, so these things you have to think about as well, like when your hen do is coming up, what social occasions, whether you do date night every single week, because everyone has different lifestyles, right? Some people do enjoy going out for date night every single weekend, and that is a religion, and that is something that you want to stick to as a part of your routine. You don't want to lose that, because this is your engagement. It's supposed to be an exciting time as well. Just because you want to lose weight doesn't mean you have to give up your life. Like, why do we think that? Why do we think we have to give up on our life in order to lose weight is just not the case, okay? All of my clients, they still enjoy life. They are still doing everything that they would usually do, but they're just thinking about it now. Like they're actually taking their macros and their calories and their workouts and being consistent over time. They're taking all of that into consideration. And surprise, surprise, we're seeing the results, okay? It's not magic. It's by actually taking your goal and breaking it down. You can't hit a target if you're not even directing the arrow at it, okay? Like a lot of you are just shooting blindly when you're on your weight loss journey. Like there is no structure, there is no plan, there is no direction. When you are shooting the bow and arrow at the target, you're aiming for bullseye, right? And I think a lot of people think that when you are being specific on your weight loss journey, it's obsessive, but it doesn't have to be obsessive. Like obsession is when you are constantly like fixated on something and there's no way of sort of like different direction, but that's just not the case on your weight loss journey. You can have freedom without it being obsessive and still seeing results. Your wedding deadlines don't move. Your wedding day, your hen do, these things are all planned in advance, right? And that is brilliant because we can reverse engineer. We can plan for these times to make sure that you're actually seeing the results while still enjoying those moments, not obsessing over the scale, not obsessing over food and drink while you're trying to enjoy it, because those two things don't work together. Rather than crash dieting 4 weeks before your wedding and then struggling to actually manage it and to sustain it. If we can plan for it now and we reverse engineer it, it's all maintainable and it's all manageable. Motivation also strives on proof, right? I hear all the time, I can't stay motivated, I struggle to stay motivated. Do you think you would struggle to stay motivated on your weight loss journey if you saw actual results week in, week out? If you saw the scales dropping, if you saw your measurements dropping, and if you compared progress pictures every 4 weeks and you saw the difference, do you really think it would be that difficult for you to stay motivated? No, it wouldn't. And I see this time and time again, like women saying, I struggle to feel motivated. Of course you are struggling to feel motivated because you're putting in the work, you're doing everything by the book, you're literally ticking things off in black and white that should be working, but they're not. There's no wonder. That's literally like flipping torture. There's no wonder you don't feel motivated if you're not seeing the results. So yes, while doing everything right is great, unless you are seeing a difference, unless you are tracking your weight and you are getting the results that you want, and you're tracking your measurements and your measurements are dropping, and you're taking progress pictures and you're seeing the difference, of course you're struggling to feel motivated. It's like torture. You're going to be pulling your hair out. And this is exactly why people keep restarting, because you're putting the effort in, you're doing everything that you think should be working and it doesn't work. And so you lose motivation and it's back to square one. You think, what's the point? It doesn't work for me. My metabolism's broken. I can't lose the weight. I will always be like this and it's never going to change for me. Of course, you're not feeling motivated. So if you actually saw results week in, week out, the motivation would stick, okay? Not to mention, if you actually had a plan that broke down your goals into sustainable, maintainable, achievable mini goals, milestones, you wouldn't actually feel overwhelmed. You wouldn't feel overwhelmed. You wouldn't feel stressed out. It would prevent actually feeling stressed and anxious before the wedding. You're not worrying about if you're going to fit into your dress or if you need to get a size up or a size down. Like, if it is planned, there's less room for stress, okay? We want to stress less as a bride. We do not want added pressure. The pressure comes when you have a weight loss journey and when you say, I want to lose weight for my wedding, and you leave it 3 to 1 month before the wedding. Of course, that's going to add pressure, but in order to alleviate that, we start as soon as we can. As soon as you have that spark, like for a lot of people, that spark comes when you get engaged. Don't ignore it and don't think that just because your wedding is a year, 2 years out, that you can't start now. You're basically reinforcing that you are going to crash diet and that you don't see this as a lifestyle change. You need to reframe your mind. You need to reframe your mindset into knowing and thinking that this is for life now. Because if you don't, there's no, like, it's not sticking. You're not going to keep the weight off after the wedding. You're going to go back to old habits. You're going to put all the weight back on and you're going to be back in square one. So if you don't want to be where you are now, I suggest you reframe your mindset into thinking that this is for life now. This isn't just for your wedding day. And that means starting now, taking action now, not waiting till 4 weeks before the wedding. So I've got 8 steps for you to make sure that you're actually being specific with your goals and to make sure that you're actually seeing results that you want. Okay, you ready? Step number 1 is nail your exact target. Get specific on what you want. Do you want to lose a stone? Do you want to lose 2 stone? Do you want more specifically to look more toned in your arms? Maybe you're self-conscious. Maybe you want to grow your bum. Where in your body do you want to change, and how do you think that that looks metrically? Like, how do you think that relates to being on the scale and to your measurements? What do you actually want? Be specific. Step number 2 is reverse engineer. This is what I do. This is basically my job for my clients, as well as all of the above, making them clear and giving them their program. But I also reverse engineer what their actual goal is. So if they have a goal to lose 10 kilograms and we have 6 months to do that, I break down exactly what they would need to achieve every single week in order to reach that goal. I break that down over however many months, however many weeks is in 6 months, and we make sure that we're hitting that. And if we don't, for example, and they're not going to hit it every single week, I'm fully aware of that. We also take into account their hen do, their social occasions, weekends where it just sporadically pops up, date nights, for example, right? We have to take into account those and we have to give some sort of buffer for that. And that's also what we do. But breaking it down and making sure that, okay, if I'm not achieving X, Y, Z by this week, then we need to take it up a little notch if we want to stay on track to reach that goal. If it comes to a point where it's like, do you know what? I'm really happy with the progress that we're making, then great. We just keep going the way that we're going. But if we can plan for these things, then it makes it a whole lot easier to stay on track, okay? So reverse engineering your timeline also links in perfectly to step number 3. Lock in your milestone dates, okay? So of course, the wedding, the hen do, if you have 2 hen dos, if you've got, another friend's hen do, which is also in the time frame leading up to your wedding, if you've got birthday parties, if you've got a birthday weekend, all of these milestones that you can think of, actually put them down in your schedule, write them out so that you can see clearly, because what you'll often find is that you actually have a lot of occasions, a lot of events that are going to come from now until then, okay? A lot. More than you actually realize, even going down to every single birthday that's in your family and date nights. How often do you tend to go on date night, all right? Because we have to account for this as well, okay? This is what reverse engineering your actual time frame allows you to do. It allows you to see it on a wider scale and see what you're actually up against, okay? This might be a little bit overwhelming because you're going to look at that sheet and be like, whoa, I have a lot going on before my own wedding. That's crazy. But that's happening regardless of whether you write it down and plan for it or not. So you can either plan for it and make sure that you're still seeing results while enjoying it, or you're going to be on your weight loss journey, or you're going to be trying to. You won't have planned for it, you won't have seen these coming, and you won't have been able to make the changes that you needed to make in order to still see results while enjoying that time. So the choice is yours. You either plan for it now, be aware of it now, and do what needs to be done, or you leave it and just let it be and do what you've always done and just plod along and cross your fingers and hope that, the weight on the scale doesn't fluctuate. Step number 4 is choose 2 to 3 habits that you can change, okay? Choose 2 to 3 habits that you can stick to. For example, if you're going to the gym once or twice a week at the moment and you want to up it, choose a goal of 3 days a week, okay? If you want to start going to the gym, set a habit, set that goal of 1 to 2 times a week, okay? If you want to start getting your daily steps in, get that as a priority. Write down 2 to 3 habits that you can change today that won't completely blow your mind and, completely unrealistic. We need to set realistic goals and habits that we can continue over time, and then we can start adding more as we go along, but start with 2 to 3 to begin with. Step number 5 is track everything that matters. Progress pictures, waist measurements, arm measurements, leg measurements, booty measurements, weight on the scale, track your steps, track your food, but on a looking at a scale of like looking at yourself to see the difference that you're making, progress pictures, measurements, and weight on the scale. These are the 3 that I do with my clients every single week. You don't have to do them every week. I think that is pretty important because you might not notice the change in your body every single week. So progress pictures, if you don't want to do them, you can do them every 2 weeks. I get my clients to do them every week though. And measurements, definitely every single week, because it's important to see how your body fluctuates. And weight measurement, also every single week, because again, your body will fluctuate as throughout the month, right? You have different cycles, you have different phases, your body's going to fluctuate, your weight's going to fluctuate. So we need to see how it is fluctuating. But from week 1 to week 4, for example, we should see a downward trend, same as week 4 to week 8, week 8 to week 12, all right? We should definitely be seeing a downward trend, but tracking those metrics is super important. Step number 6, communicate with your dress fitter. Like, this is such a simple one, but such an important one, okay? Tell them that you're on your weight loss journey. Tell them that you are looking to lose a stone. And I know for a lot of you, it's going to be overwhelming, because I know that a lot of women don't like to speak about their goals. Number 1, you don't want anyone else's opinion, and really they shouldn't be giving it. Tell them that it's really nothing to do with them. But literally telling your seamstress at least is so important, so that they can at least plan for it and they can tell you, because there might actually be a limit for what your dress can be taken in by. For example, one of my clients, she waited to actually buy her dress because she knew she wanted to lose at least 2 to 3 dress sizes. So rather than buying the dress now, she wanted to build up her confidence, she wanted to start seeing the results, and then of course go back, try the dress on in a dress size down and see how it fits, and then she can go ahead and buy it. All right, so make sure you're communicating that, being open with it, just saying, look, I am planning on losing some weight, I do want to, drop a dress size or 2 at least. So be open with that, and then they can give you some guidance. Step number 7, which kind of ties in really, really nicely with step 2 and 3, is plan your trips. Like, if you're discussing a hen do or a trip with your fiance or girls trips or whatever, like, have them planned out, because that's super important as well. We need to make sure that we are, seeing how the time frame is going. So just making sure that anything that you have in mind is just written down and actually planned. Step number 8 is remind yourself of your goals daily. Okay, have it on the back of your phone screen. Write it on your whiteboard, like get a whiteboard if you don't have one. Put it on your fridge, like however it sort of goes for you, whether that's having a physical picture of your ideal body or dress, or, the number on the scale that you want to see. Keep reminding yourself of it, okay? And in the least obsessive way possible, you want to reframe your mindset of thinking that this is a case of like you reminding yourself of why you're doing what you're doing, okay? And the bigger picture. And if you really, really want to get more, I guess, spiritual and more, like, we got to see this as also manifestation, right? But manifestation does not work unless accompanied by actions, okay? When we're manifesting, we have to visibly be able to see it, right? We have to put ourselves in these situations and be around it, so that we are actually starting to embody it, okay? And seeing those pictures and seeing that number will constantly put you in a state and remind you of why you're doing what you're doing, and remind you of the things that you should be doing in order to reach that goal, okay? Because it is super easy for it to sort of get to the back of your head, and we're never actually doing the things that we know we need to do in order to get there. So keep reminding yourself of why you're doing what you're doing. Every single week in my check-ins, I get my girls to literally write down what went well, what didn't go so well, but also like remind themselves why they're doing what they're doing. And I think it's so important to do that, to keep yourself motivated and keep yourself in check. So I hope those 8 steps were super easy and helpful for you. If you want my help on actually creating a plan for yourself before your wedding, don't wait. Reach out now, because at least I can help you map out that time frame, see how much time you do have, and see whether that makes sense with your realistic and your wildest imaginations. So reach out, DM me the word bride on the Bridal Coach Instagram, and I will respond to you, and we can have that chat over the DMs. And of course, as always, if you have any questions or if you want me to create a video, if you've seen something that you want to know about, please just drop me a message and let me know, okay? I hope you found this video useful and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye!